The political arena is rarely without its drama, but some moments are so explosive that they leave everyone stunned. Such was the case when Diane Abbott took center stage on BBC Live television, publicly challenging Keir Starmer and exposing an alleged affair involving him and Angela Rayner. It was an evening that began as a typical political debate, but quickly unraveled into a spectacle that gripped viewers across the nation. The tension in the studio was palpable, the audience frozen in shock, as Abbott delivered her accusations with a sharp precision that could pierce through the most carefully constructed political defenses. This wasn't just political theatre, it was a moment of reckoning that could redefine the trajectory of Labour's leadership and its internal dynamics. Keir Starmer, who has meticulously crafted an image of stability and integrity, looked visibly rattled. Abbott's words carried an unrelenting force, each statement more damning than the last. The allegations centered around Starmer's supposed relationship with Angela Rayner, his deputy leader. While whispers of such a connection had circulated in political circles, few dared to address it publicly, until now. Abbott, a seasoned politician with decades of experience, appeared unshaken as she laid out her claims. Her delivery was measured, yet unyielding, as though she had been waiting for this very moment to bring the truth to light. The BBC presenter, caught entirely off guard, attempted to steer the conversation back to the scheduled topics. But Abbott would not be silenced. She leaned forward, her voice steady and unwavering, and stated that she could no longer stand by while the party's leadership operated under a shroud of secrecy. The studio audience gasped audibly as Abbott recounted incidents that allegedly pointed to inappropriate behavior between Starmer and Rayner. While she refrained from going into explicit details, the implications of her words were clear. This was more than just political camaraderie. It was a personal relationship that could compromise the integrity of Labour's leadership. Starmer's reaction was a mix of disbelief and indignation. He denied the allegations outright, accusing Abbott of attempting to undermine the party's unity. But his attempts to regain control of the narrative fell flat. The audience could sense his unease, his usual polished demeanour slipping with each passing second. Abbott, in stark contrast, remained composed. She spoke not just as a critic of Starmer's leadership, but as someone deeply invested in the party's future. Her words resonated with a faction of Labour supporters who have long questioned the direction under Starmer's leadership. Angela Rayner, though not present during the broadcast, became a central figure in the unfolding drama. Her absence was conspicuous, and social media was ablaze with speculation. Critics and supporters alike took to various platforms, dissecting Abbott's claims and demanding answers from the party's leadership. Hashtags like #Labour Scandal and #Starmer-Rayner Affair began trending within minutes, illustrating the widespread interest in the controversy. For many, this wasn't just about personal misconduct. It was a reflection of deeper issues within Labour's ranks, issues of trust, transparency, and leadership accountability. In the hours following the broadcast, Labour's press office scrambled to control the damage. Statements were issued, denying the allegations and accusing Abbott of spreading unfounded rumours. Yet the denials did little to quell the storm. Abbott's supporters rallied behind her, praising her courage to speak out against what they perceived as a culture of silence and complicity. Critics of Starmer used the moment to amplify their grievances, arguing that his leadership had alienated the party's grassroots base. Political analysts were quick to weigh in, describing the incident as one of the most significant challenges to Starmer's leadership to date. Some suggested that the allegations, regardless of their veracity, could erode public trust in Labour. Others argued that Abbott's actions reflected a broader dissatisfaction within the party, a rift between the leadership and the rank-and-file members who feel their voices are being ignored. The incident also reignited debates about the party's priorities, with many questioning whether Labour could effectively challenge the Conservatives if it remained mired in internal controversies. For Abbott, the fallout was both a risk and an opportunity. By taking such a bold stance, she positioned herself as a voice of accountability within Labour, a role that resonated with those disillusioned by the party's current direction. But the move also drew criticism from those who saw it as a betrayal of party unity. Some accused her of airing grievances publicly, rather than addressing them behind closed doors, arguing that her actions could harm Labour's chances in future elections. Abbott, however, seemed undeterred. In subsequent interviews, she doubled down on her claims, insisting that the public had a right to know the truth about its leaders. As the dust settled, questions remained unanswered. Was there any truth to the allegations? If so, what implications would they have for Starmer's leadership and Rayner's role within the party? And perhaps most importantly, what does this incident reveal about the state of Labour in the 21st century? For many, the controversy served as a stark reminder that politics is as much about personalities and perceptions as it is about policies. The BBC broadcast will likely be remembered as a turning point, a moment when the facade of political unity cracked, revealing the messy realities beneath. Whether it leads to meaningful change or becomes another footnote in Labour's tumultuous history remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: Diane Abbott's bold decision to speak out has left an indelible mark on the party and its leadership. As Labour grapples with the fallout, the public watches closely, awaiting the next chapter in this unfolding political drama. The controversy surrounding Diane Abbott's shocking allegations on BBC Live television sent ripples through the political landscape, drawing intense scrutiny from media outlets, party insiders, and the public alike. The incident, which many initially dismissed as a fleeting spectacle, quickly escalated into a full-blown crisis that Labour's leadership struggled to contain. Abbott's bold confrontation wasn't just about the alleged affair between Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner. It became a lightning rod for a much larger conversation about trust, accountability, and the direction of the Labour Party. As the days passed, the story refused to fade from the headlines. News outlets ran continuous coverage, dissecting every detail of Abbott's claims and the responses from Starmer's camp. Political commentators debated the long-term implications of the scandal, with some suggesting that it could mark the beginning of the end for Starmer's leadership. The alleged affair, whether real or fabricated, struck at the core of the party's image. For a party that has long prided itself on representing the common people, this scandal painted a picture of elitism, secrecy, and self-interest, a narrative that critics were quick to exploit. Abbott's decision to air these allegations in such a public forum wasn't without its consequences. While some hailed her as a whistleblower with the courage to confront a flawed leadership, others accused her of sabotaging the party's unity. Within Labour's ranks, the reaction was sharply divided. A faction of MPs and grassroots activists expressed support for Abbott, arguing that her actions reflected the frustrations of many who felt increasingly alienated by Starmer's leadership. These supporters saw Abbott as a symbol of resistance against a leadership style they viewed as disconnected from the party's core values. However, Abbott's detractors were equally vocal. High-ranking members of the party condemned her actions as reckless and damaging, accusing her of prioritizing personal grievances over the collective good. Some even suggested that her public accusations played directly into the hands of the Conservative Party, providing them with ammunition to attack Labour's credibility. The internal backlash against Abbott highlighted the deep divisions within the party, divisions that had been simmering beneath the surface long before this incident came to light. For Starmer, the scandal posed a significant challenge to his leadership. Despite his repeated denials of the allegations, the damage to his reputation was undeniable. His carefully cultivated image of integrity and competence now appeared tarnished, and his ability to lead the party through this crisis was called into question. Critics seized upon the scandal as evidence of broader issues with Starmer's leadership, including his perceived inability to connect with ordinary voters and his failure to unite the party's various factions. Angela Rayner, meanwhile, faced her own share of scrutiny. Though she remained largely silent in the immediate aftermath of the allegations, her absence did little to quell the speculation. Questions about her relationship with Starmer dominated the headlines, overshadowing her work as deputy leader. For Rayner, the scandal represented a double-edged sword. On one hand, it brought her significant media attention, but on the other, it risked undermining her credibility and future within the party. The public response to the scandal was equally polarized. Among Labour supporters, there was a growing sense of disillusionment. Many viewed the scandal as yet another example of the party's inability to focus on the issues that mattered most to voters. At a time when the country faced pressing challenges, rising inflation, a struggling healthcare system, and deepening inequality, the scandal seemed like a distraction from Labour's core mission. For some, it reinforced the perception that the party was more concerned with internal power struggles than with addressing the needs of the people. Social media became a battleground for the scandal, with hashtags and memes amplifying the controversy. Some users rallied behind Abbott, praising her for exposing what they saw as hypocrisy within the leadership. Others took a more cynical view, suggesting that the entire incident was a political stunt designed to grab attention. The discourse online reflected the broader divisions within the country, with the scandal serving as a proxy for deeper frustrations with the political establishment as a whole. As the controversy continued to unfold, it raised important questions about the nature of leadership and accountability in modern politics. Should personal relationships between political leaders be a matter of public concern? How should political parties handle allegations of misconduct among their ranks? And what role does the media play in shaping public perceptions of these scandals? These questions were at the forefront of the national conversation, with no easy answers in sight. For Abbott, the decision to speak out was undoubtedly a risky one. In subsequent interviews, she defended her actions, insisting that her primary motivation was to hold the leadership accountable. She framed her allegations as part of a broader critique of the party's direction under Starmer, arguing that Labour needed to return to its roots as a party of the people. While her critics dismissed her claims as sour grapes, Abbott's supporters saw her as a principled leader willing to speak truth to power. The scandal also had implications for the broader political landscape. The Conservative Party, eager to capitalise on Labour's missteps, used the controversy as a talking point in their campaigns. Tory leaders painted the scandal as evidence of Labour's dysfunction, arguing that the party was too divided to effectively govern. This narrative resonated with some voters, particularly those who were already sceptical of Labour's ability to lead the country. As the weeks turned into months, the long-term impact of the scandal became increasingly clear. For Starmer, it marked a turning point in his leadership, a moment that forced him to confront both his personal and political vulnerabilities. While he managed to weather the immediate storm, the allegations left a lasting stain on his reputation, one that could resurface in future political battles. For Abbott, the incident solidified her role as a polarizing figure within Labour, revered by some, reviled by others, but impossible to ignore. The scandal also highlighted the challenges facing Labour as it seeks to rebuild itself in the post-Corbyn era. With the next general election on the horizon, the party faces an uphill battle to win back the trust of voters and present itself as a credible alternative to the Conservatives. Whether it can overcome the divisions exposed by this controversy remains to be seen. Ultimately, the BBC broadcast served as a stark reminder of the high stakes of political leadership. In an era of constant scrutiny and instantaneous communication, the margin for error is razor thin. For Starmer, Abbott and Rayner, the scandal was a test of character, resilience and strategy, a test that would have far-reaching consequences for their careers and for the Labour Party as a whole. As the nation continues to grapple with the fallout, one thing is certain. The events of that fateful evening on BBC live television will not be forgotten anytime soon. They will be studied, debated, and remembered as a defining moment in the history of British politics, a moment when the personal and the political collided in a way that few could have anticipated. Whether it leads to meaningful change or becomes just another chapter in the long story of political drama, only time will tell. The fallout from the BBC live television incident continued to evolve, casting a long shadow over the Labour Party and British politics. Even as Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner attempted to move past the scandal, the allegations lingered in the public consciousness. For weeks, political commentators dissected every aspect of the accusations, analysing body language, public statements, and historical interactions between Starmer and Rayner. The story seemed inescapable, dominating not only political discussions, but also tabloid headlines and social media chatter. It became a cultural flashpoint, sparking debates about ethics, leadership, and the blurred lines between personal and professional lives in public office. Diane Abbott's role in the controversy continued to attract both admiration and criticism. Her supporters framed her actions as an act of moral courage, a necessary intervention to hold leaders accountable in a system that often prioritizes loyalty over transparency. To them, Abbott's willingness to speak out reflected a commitment to the principles of accountability and justice, values they believed had been eroded under Starmer's leadership. Critics, however, were relentless in their condemnation, accusing her of betrayal and undermining the party's stability. The divide underscored the deep ideological rifts within Labour, a struggle between its traditional base and the modernist approach championed by Starmer. Meanwhile, Angela Rayner faced mounting pressure to address the controversy directly. Her initial silence, though strategic, began to wear thin among both supporters and detractors. When she finally spoke publicly, her statement was carefully worded, emphasizing her commitment to the party's mission while dismissing the allegations as baseless distractions. Yet, her response did little to quell the speculation. For many, it raised more questions than it answered, adding to the sense of uncertainty surrounding her future in the party. Some insiders suggested that the scandal could tarnish her ambitions for higher leadership roles, while others argued it might galvanize her base of supporters. The impact on Keir Starmer's leadership was equally profound. Though he maintained his innocence and attempted to redirect attention to policy matters, the scandal disrupted his ability to project a unified and stable image for Labour. Internal critics seized the opportunity to challenge his leadership, reigniting calls for a shift in direction. For Starmer, the incident served as a stark reminder of the precariousness of his position. In a party already rife with tensions, even the perception of impropriety could be weaponized to destabilize his authority. Outside the Labour Party, the controversy became a political gift for the Conservatives. Tory leaders capitalized on the scandal, using it to divert attention from their own challenges and frame Labour as a party mired in chaos. In parliamentary debates and public speeches, Conservative MPs pointed to the allegations as evidence of Labour's inability to govern effectively. The narrative was simple but effective. If Labour couldn't manage its internal affairs, how could it hope to manage the country? As the dust began to settle, it became clear that this was more than just a fleeting scandal. It was a moment that exposed the vulnerabilities of political leadership and the fragility of trust in public institutions. For many, the events of that night on BBC Live television symbolised a turning point, not just for the individuals involved, but for the Labour Party and British politics as a whole.